Morning, everyone. I'm Cheryl Davila, former council member, City of Berkeley, and founder of the Climate Emergency Mobilization Task Force. We're going to start with the land acknowledgement from Karina Gould, the tribal chair of Confederated Villages of Lejeune and co-founder of Segurite Land Trust, an amazing, beautiful human. And we're blessed to have her be here with us on our second virtual summit series, Climate and Indigenous Leadership. So thank you, Karina, for being here, and take it away.
Thank you, Cheryl. Jorge Hushish. Hello, everyone. Good morning. So good to see everyone today. I'm happy to be here again to start us off, and wonderful day and a beautiful, powerful group of folks that have come together to share so many important messages. And I'm just happy that I could be here. And I unfortunately won't be able to stay for the entire thing. So I'm looking forward to the recording afterwards because I can't wait to hear what these amazing leaders have to say. So we start off with the land acknowledgement, and land acknowledgements are a little tricky. And sometimes we're saying words and we're not understanding what we're talking about. But I think we'll start off with some breaths because we're going to listen to some things that are probably going to be a little difficult today. And we want us to all be present in the space. So the mountain behind me is Tuyshtak. That is the mountain that we are born to. Tuyshtak is our most sacred mountain that we were created from. And I am the tribal chair for the Confederated Villages of Lishan Nation. And of that, there are 5 non-federally recognized tribes that were created from the top of this mountain. And this mountain was our sacred place to have ceremony at. And once settlers came here and start renaming everything, it went from a place of creation to Mount Diablo, the Devil's Mountain. And we are still living, all of us in the Bay Area, underneath the shadow of this beautiful being. And so when we think about the places and spaces that we're in today, no matter where we're calling in from, let's remember that we all woke up this morning, that we all took a breath this morning, that we all have our feet on the ground, that we are all able to be in this space together. And so we're going to do some breaths together just to bring us into this space. And so I'm going to ask us to take a deep breath, a breath for all of our relatives that don't have a human voice, for all of our relatives that provide us the fresh air, for all of our relatives that give us fresh water to drink, for our relatives, the clouds that are up in the sky today, that they remember to do their responsibilities and bring us fresh water for the next 7 generations. Let's take a deep breath for that. And let's let it go. Let's take a next deep breath for all of our relatives that live without a roof over their head, those that are facing oppression against all different odds, those that are standing up against those that would harm our Mother Earth, that are standing on the front lines against pipelines, standing on the front lines in the Amazon, standing on the front lines against oppression in Kashmir and West Papua and Palestine and all the other places in the world that are standing up. We stand with them and we take a breath. And we let it go. We take a deep breath for our mothers and our aunties and our grandmas, all those children that are suffering. We take a deep breath for the children that are not yet born, that we create a world together that is better for them, where they have fresh water to drink, good food and medicines to grow, that they have good air to breathe, and that there is a sacred relationship with fire recreated again. And we take a deep breath and we let it go. We're going to take a deep breath for our medicine people and our song carriers and our culture bearers, and all of those that remember their sacred responsibility to the earth, that we come together to fight as human beings against this thing that human beings created, this climate injustice, this climate disaster. We pray for our oceans and our waters. We pray for those that are on Maui that have been devastated by the fires. We pray for all of those beings that are devastated by fires right now. And we ask our relatives, the lightning, to be gentle on us, and to help us to create that relationship again. We ask for us to remember to ask for forgiveness when we wake up, and to ask for guidance as we try to create a better world again. We take a deep breath, let it go. And we take a deep breath for our own bodies, our own health, and that when we breathe in, that it creates oxygen that helps our cells to grow and to do good things for our bodies. We take a deep breath for the fresh water that we get to drink, that it creates a healing in our bodies. We ask for special blessings for those that are sick, those that are still dealing with COVID and other diseases, those that can't be with us right now. We take a deep breath for our elders that need help as we're going into a different time, as this world is slowing down, as it's going to get cold. We take a deep breath for all of those elders as well. And take a deep breath together. Let it go. And we take a deep breath for all of our relations, all of those that we're related to, all of those that are here with us and are on our minds and our hearts right now. And whatever's in our hearts right now that we need an extra breath for, we do that right now together. And we take a deep breath. And we let it go. And relatives, I hope that today brings you great joy, that we come together in one good mind and one good spirit to listen to one another, to create a better future for all of us to see and for the next 7 generations.
Thank you so much, Karina. You're amazing. It's always a blessing to be in your presence, to hear your wisdom. Thank you so much for being part of CEMTF. You're amazing. I love you. Thank you. And good luck today with whatever you're doing.
Thank you.
All right. So thank you, everyone, for being here. Welcome to the Climate and Indigenous Leadership, the CEMTF's 4th virtual summit series. This is the 2nd in the series, and we're happy to see you this morning. In case you don't know me, again, I'm Cheryl Davila, the founder of the CEMTF, the Climate Emergency Mobilization Task Force, and I'm a former council member in the city of Berkeley. I'm also part of one of the founders of the Berkeley Equity Summit Alliance, which is a BIPOC Berkeley community group, and Mobilize Berkeley, which is CEMTF and the Student Environmental Resource Center at UC Berkeley. And CERC is also a partner in this today. And I'm part of the Interfaith Council of Alameda County, the network of elected officials, and another Berkeley group, Friends of Adeline. So I'm kind of busy, but I'm enjoying being here with you today and all of our amazing speakers. And I want to thank the Planning and Logistics Committee, Jack and Karina, and I want to thank the steering committee, which also includes Jack and Karina and myself, Reverend Smith from McGee Avenue Baptist Church, and Deacon Jones, and the mayor of Richmond, my good friend Eduardo Martinez, are all part of the Steering Committee. And I want to give a special shout out to our new amazing fellows from UC Berkeley's College Core program, Natalie, Janelle, Karis, and Livy. So put your thumbs up or put your cameras on so they can see your beautiful faces. And they're going to be helping introduce folks today. And then also, I want to thank all of our amazing speakers today, because without you, we would not be here today. And that is Karina Gould, who just spoke, Laneta, Carrie, Pat, or Patricia, Patrick, Paul, and Tiny. Thank you for being here. It really makes me filled with so much joy, and I'm holding back tears because it's just really great that you're here, and I'm really happy. And I want to thank all of you who have donated or will donate, because there's still time. And then CEMTF is in its 4th year of existence. This is our 4th summit series and our 2nd year with having fellows. And we are grateful and thankful. We are committed to talk about climate and the topics that are not usually discussed. And so one thing that we did not talk about in our family was our Indigenous roots. Although my Auntie Alma, my dad's sister, and my grandmother's uncle Roval, they went to powwows in upstate New York, but they didn't take us with them. And my sister once attended a powwow when she was at SUNY in Albany. And, that was a part of our heritage that we didn't like acknowledge as much as I wish we did, Although my cousin Kit, my Auntie Alma's daughter, identified as a Cherokee and a Blackfoot. So we have those roots in our family, but sadly, our ancestral heritage was not conveyed that much to us as children. And it wasn't until I came to Berkeley that I started to go to powwows and be around my Indigenous brothers and sisters. And I was just so happy to do that, and to meet Karina and Laneta and Wounded and Eli and all these beautiful Indigenous leaders that I've been blessed to know, mostly because I was a council member, but they're still in my lives today, and I'm so grateful for that. And so we have to embrace our heritage. It's not too late, it's too late for me to talk to my grandparents and my family, because most of them are ancestors now, but it might not be too late for you. So each time we meet at this summit series, we have more devastation from the climate emergency. We've had the fires, and I keep saying that, we're in a heap of trouble, and the heap keeps getting bigger and bigger. It keeps growing. We had the fires in Maui, Greece, California, across the United States and Canada, and the earthquakes, the floodings, not to forget the police continued killings and the missing and murdered Indigenous women, the COVID eviction moratorium ending, with landlords celebrating right here in Berkeley. That was just terrible. And we're still in a COVID pandemic, and the numbers are going up. So we have to, and there's continued variance. And Not to mention the legislation that just got overturned yesterday. And today there's fossil fuel protests and DACA protests and people protesting outside the White House because he hasn't declared a climate emergency. I can only imagine what our world would have been like if we would have let the indigenous stewards of this land lead. Land back. I'm praying for a better tomorrow and hopefully we get it, right? So sit down, get comfortable, get your coffee and tea, your breakfast, your water, because water is life, and enjoy our time together this morning. And welcome to Climate and Indigenous Leadership. So I think we're a little ahead of schedule, but I think Leneda's ready to go if that's okay with you. So we're gonna get started now with Natalie is going to introduce you. So go ahead, go for it.
My name is Natalie. I'm so happy to meet you and I'm so excited to hear what you have to say. I'm excited to introduce Dr. Leneda Wojcik, activist and author for Understanding the Natural Laws of the Universe.
Thank you. I guess we'll start with looking at the sacred circle of life. Sacred circle of life. This is kind of a medallion, kind of a beaded necklace that you see on various chiefs. And what it's telling you is that under the sacred circle, there are the four main human groups: the white, the red, the black, and the yellow. And of course, everyone else comes from a mixture of all of that. And this also tells us that the sacred circle of life is around all of us. And at one time, we all had that understanding. Of course, that was a long time ago. And nobody really knows that now, but we all came from that same sacred circle of life. Could we go the next? The matriarchy is a circle of life. It's a geographical ecosystem, and governance is through the clan system. The Iroquois Confederacy and formation of the US Constitution were there at the time that this was created. And of course, it wasn't acknowledged because we had women, whereas the US Constitution and the men that formed that were against the women, didn't want to have women there. The balance is in all life, in men and women. So when we talk about the matriarchy as the circle of life, the matriarchy is, and I'm just making it up, it's the men and the women. It's not only women, but it's men and women, because our lines of protection is when if an Indian man marries, he becomes the woman's clan, and the women are the property owners. So if we could go to the sacred circle of life in this next one. Okay, this is the geographic ecosystem. This is what we're all made of. All our families and all our people, we all fall into the geographic ecosystem of where we're living. If we live in the South, in the Southwest, there are different animals and plants and medicines. But if you live in the North, then there'll be other animals and plants and medicines. But these circles connect us all, where we're all connected. So when we think of our ecosystem of how we're living, it's based upon what's outside of us. You know, maybe there's more bears, or maybe there's more other animal life that we can attach ourselves to. But the sacred circle of geographic life is what we come from. And this is all done through our spirit and our prayers and our blessings. We have prayers that could be just an immediate source of where we can have prayers that go over the immediate environment and climate, because your prayers comes from sound within your body, and it comes up through your heart and out through your mouth, and we make a sound. We're the only ones in this entire geographic ecosystem that can make that sound, that has committed itself with prayer, with the prayers. And when it comes out of your mouth and it travels through the air on light, it travels on light, and it impacts whatever is around us, whatever plants or animals that are waiting for that. They're waiting for those prayers. This is how we kept life in balance without having great catastrophes or earthquakes or volcanoes, was because we always maintained those prayers. So the other way that we initiated those prayers was through our dances and our songs. The drummers maintains the heartbeat of Mother Earth, and they maintain a good mind while singing. And those songs are picked up by a dancer, and the dancer is thinking of how to maintain those dance steps, and how to thinking of how to have more food, more energy, how to have more things that can help her people and her family. And this is done through song, because when the drummers are singing, they're drumming and they're singing, and then it comes out through light, and flows through the air and impacts everything that's around. So the dancing, the singing, and the prayers are very necessary. And it's just not a matter of making any kind of sound. The sound and in the songs have been brought to us throughout generations and generations of time. And those sounds carry the prayers through light. And the best one is the best prayers that takes care of the entire earth are the sunrise prayers, when you have prayers at sunrise. Because when you're coming out to do your prayers and the sun is just coming up and they're sending light through, and when you're singing your songs and saying your prayers, then it travels on that light directly to the sun, and then it generates in a real positive direction. So when the sun is coming up and you're doing those prayers and those songs, then it's taking it to the sun, and as the earth turns, then the sun is able to take those prayers that made everything positive and it beams down on earth. So this is how you get all of earth prayed for. And it's something that has been elevated for some time on, say, Alcatraz. We do the sunrise prayers, and this is for the entire earth. And we don't have to be on Alcatraz. We don't have to be anywhere. We can be wherever we're at sunrise, and we could do those prayers. But everything is dealt with through prayers. Come on, the next. Okay, the hierarchy, which is the present system we live under today. Can I go to the next? This is the hierarchy, and the way that it works from the ground level up, you know, from the cities to the counties and on up through the various levels that it goes. It's very oppressive to live under this hierarchy where everything has to go through different levels before it comes up. And we're under the same system today through the Department of Interior. Fortunately, we have a Native woman, which has been really outstanding and helpful, but it's really hard for her to do her job considering, you know, everyone that she has to work with as well. So through the Department of Interior, there are 15 other agencies. And through the Interior Department, these are all the agencies that that function under the Interior. So the Bureau of Indian Affairs is the only one that functions out of the Interior Department. And then it goes down to our area offices and then the tribal offices, and then down to tribal government. So we're all on that bottom level of trying to get through. And that's why Congress can make so many laws by, against, for Native people, but they never check with us because it all goes through this system, through the state. And all we can do is elect our tribal council members, and our tribal council members do not necessarily have that link with Congress where they could go in and, tell them that this piece of legislation is not going to work, that it's going to be bad, or that it's imposing on a treaty. There's no link between our offices that let us know we're going to be dealt with on that level. So all we have above us are people who are hired through the Department of Interior, and then that breaks up into other offices. So there's no real way that we can connect ourselves to the voice that commands this legislative branch here. We don't have a direct line. We can only go through the Department of Interior. And sometimes we try to break that link and work through the state and try to get word up through to the House or to the Senate. But it's a very difficult thing to do. So I'm just showing you the hierarchical levels of oppression that we're all under. Can I see the next one? Okay, so this is kind of the model of assimilation into Western society that we're going through. This is our circle of light, of life. And I just put it under a matriarchy, but the matriarchy isn't really the necessary span. But this shows the assimilation, acculturation processes into the patriarchy. So when we go to school, when we have a chance to go to school, then we can go into the hierarchy of Western society, which is the patriarchy, and we can come back out, and we can come back and travel back. But a lot of tribes may be caught somewhere. Maybe they're not quite there. Maybe they're a little bit more on this side. and still trying to work with the hierarchy of Western society. So there are good things and bad things that we can look at in terms of what each spectrum has to offer. And, you know, we can take the good and the bad and we go back and forth. But, you know, just living in this one sphere of the patriarchy is something we never do as natives, because we're coming from the circle of life. And we're always traveling, you know, back and forth. So as Native people, it's a different, we have a different reality and a different world that we're living in. Whereas the circle of life has our home, or is our home. And the circle of life operates like acknowledging all of the levels of the ecosystem that's there. It's acknowledging, say, like there's the white tiger and the white buffalo. And the white buffalo, you know, represents the sacred part of our life. And the white tiger in China somewhere represents the sacred part of their society there. So, you know, we have different little things that correspond and correlate with all other people around the world. And that's because the circle of life medicine originated between all of us four, and then everybody in between. So whoever is able to maintain and hold on to those qualities are doing well, but they still have to come out and, you know, go into the hierarchy, because every social institution or governance and all that we're living under is in that patriarchy. So could I have the next? Okay, this is my actual relative. His name, he has the Indian name, but his non-Indian name is Andy Johnson. And it's a traditional Shoshone people learn from generation to generation, beginning at conception, the ways that teach you life's lessons. A mother must change her lifestyle through her love and compassion to accommodate the needs of the child. Every emotion, thought, and food that is ingested while pregnant is experienced by the child. Once the child is old enough, then they will learn through trial and error. Good mentors will teach them the ways of nature. After you understand who you are and how to discipline yourself, you become your best friend or your worst enemy. You must balance yourself with everything in the universe. There are teachings and ceremonies that make this possible. Listening to traditions and following prayer ways will help you keep your positive mind. Your mind will lead you down that path of goodness. We are all together in this life. and we can all learn and share those responsibilities that we have between us. So this is the traditional Shoshone. Well, Shoshone isn't even the name or the word for it, because it's the Shoshone Nation today is between Canada and Mexico, and then it flows over into both sides. But the nation are all the tribes that we are from. So I'm Bannock, I'm Bannock, and our tribe was wiped out a long time ago. So there are not very many Bannocks, but we're still going and still living and concentrating on our traditions. So the information about the circle of life and how it continues to this day, it is among all Indigenous people throughout the world. And it's been changed from time to time. It changes because somebody gets the urge to want to change, but it's has to be positive, has to be a positive change. There have been many negative changes, throughout a lot of our Indigenous communities throughout the world. Unfortunately, that has happened, but the best way is to stay on that lifeline of the positive ways of life. Okay, I guess I'm just about finished with that. And I don't know if you have, I forgot to ask you if you have any questions that anyone might have. Or if
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Laneda. Yeah, we can take questions now if anyone has any.
Okay.
Raise your hand and we'll answer. Let me look at my participant. Oh, Jack has his hand raised. Go ahead, Jack.
Yes, I remember when Cheryl talked about you coming on, she mentioned that you were involved in the occupation of Alcatraz back when that happened. I wonder if you had any comments that you could say about what that was about and what that means for you in carrying on to today.
Yeah, that was part of my early year experience as a young person. I was the chair of the Native student group at UC Berkeley, and we organized together with San Francisco State and took Alcatraz. It was marked a big change in our lives, because we were coming through the termination era, where Congress had changed a lot of laws to take our remaining lands and jurisdiction over certain areas, and also to take over complete states and take away all the tribes, such as in California. California was one that was completely taken over at one time. But there have been a lot of efforts made. It kind of changed the whole era into a acknowledgement that they're dealing with Native people, and it's not just Congress making and changing laws. But we did lose 106 tribes at that time. And I think a lot of the reservations in Oregon and Minnesota, California, and various other states were completely taken. But this changed and started the whole role of self-determination to continue.
Thank you. Robert, you have your hand up. We just have a couple minutes left, so thank you.
My question is, or my interest was really fascinating to me, was like how your chart where you show the circle, the matriarchy to the patriarchy.
Mm-hmm.
That to me seems much more natural because it just seems more in keeping with the physics and the reality that we live in a circular planet. And so the modeling and the conceptually and the thinking would be much more in keeping in, you know what I'm saying, everything more, yeah, I don't know, how should we say, balance and alignment. So it seems to be a much more reasonable perspective.
Yeah, I developed those models just so that we have something to look at. Because when you're talking about it, it's hard to talk about things without a conceptual model. So thank you.
Yeah, I mean, but I feel like that it's also, you could take it like, I mean, conceptually, right, visually we're seeing it like kind of like flat, right? But I think once you kind of like put that into practice, let's say, because I think oftentimes where things fall short is that we talk about things, but things never get put into practice. So to me, the practice of this conceptual model would be the idea that we live in a physical reality, and that that everything is actually 360 degrees. I'm saying, so not only is it like flat, but it's also like circular and full, right? We have those 3 dimensions, right, in actual reality. So it's more in keeping with reality. So, and the functionality of that sense too, of looking things as a whole.
Yeah, that's very right, very correct.
So I just wanted to
add
that as a compliment to what you were saying. Maybe, I don't know, something I've thought about. I
Well,
think that came to me as a child. That's the whole circular thing.
Thank you, Robert.
All right,
Who
thank
happens
you.
to be my husband. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
So yeah, thank you, Dr. Laneta Warjack. Everyone, let's give her a hand. That was amazing. Really enlightened us this morning. It's beautiful to see you again, have you in my presence in my life. And now I have your phone number, so I'm gonna keep in touch with you. And if you ever need any help or assistance, feel free to call me. Okay, so thank you. So I guess we'll move on to our next speaker, and Livy is going to introduce. Thank you, Livy.
Hi, I'm Livy, and I'm really excited to introduce Carrie Akemi-Hernandez, the Stewardship and Education Manager at the Northern California Land Trust, and their presentation called Identify How Colonialism is Perpetuating Climate Change and Learn How to Reset and Reconnect Your Roots to Heal Our Planet, Mother Nature. Take it away.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Carrie Akemi-Hernandez, and my traditional name is Care Bear Thunderfoot, Care Okwari Rata We Ras Oshi Ta, and hello, hi, hola, Gwe. Today, I have a poem that I wrote for you, which is Mother Earth's Eyes. And let's go ahead and begin. If I can have the slideshow go up, please. Jack? Okay. While we wait for Jack, I just want to say thank you to Cheryl. Thank you to Auntie Karina and Dr. Lanata for sharing your words with us earlier this morning. I am Mohawk, Seneca, and Apache. I'm a guest here on California Indigenous land on unceded Ohlone territory. And I just want to acknowledge those who came before us, our ancestors, my grandmother, and I'm a mother and I'm also a grandmother. So in addition to the role that I was introduced to you as, I am in the community as many hats. I have a business background as well as community advocacy, and I'm an artist and an author. Mother Earth's Eyes. Here we are in this present day, yet you say that colonialism is in the past. Well, I see it has touched and continues to try to take everything that is sacred away. How can children play when the air is polluted? Why is bottled water bought and sold by corporations who steal it from our Mother Earth? How are trees cut down and animals pushed away, while digging up bones of our ancestors beneath, just so progress and greed can be developed to take the land away? Why do some have more than enough while others struggle simply to survive? Dreams cut short for many who are exploited and imprisoned. Dollar bills printed on the blood, sweat, and tears. Money is exchanged as a weapon to suppress and to generate fear, to fund wars and perpetuate climate change. The machine programs us to believe we have to participate with or without our consent, to conform and follow these rules, to belong and be good members of society. But we must challenge these systems and unplug from all that is broken. Wake up, wake up, wake up. The time is now. You must listen. Pause for a moment and listen to your heart. Close your eyes and reconnect with the roots to the land. Listen to the courage and wisdom of our ancestors and let them guide you. Stop harming our Mother Earth. Keep our water protected. Give our land back. Stop drilling for oil, lithium, and other minerals. Stop raping and destroying our land. Stop polluting our air. We can't breathe. Every child deserves a bright future. Basic needs should be met. Food, water, shelter, yes. Yet we need each other in community and our natural world to be in balance. The war is upon us and we feel it in all the ways we struggle to survive. It isn't just for you to fight alone, but together we must stand up and protect all that is sacred. You are not alone. As the rhythm of your heartbeat dances and pounds stronger within, you see the world around you much clearer. Our Mother Earth's heartbeat is calling us home. Our ancestors' drums are louder, and we hear the call to action. We are connected, and our Mother Earth needs us to protect and heal her. Our whale relatives are fighting in the ocean. Our salmon are pushing and persevering in the rivers. Our bears, wolves, mountain lions, and other land animals are protecting our forests and sacred places. Our birds, bees, and butterflies remind us that there are no borders and symbolize hope and freedom for another day. Pay attention to what is happening all around you, all around the world. Follow the bloody trail that leads to what is putting our planet at risk. How do you spend your dollars, and what harms do you unconsciously support by passively living in a corrupt, corporate, capitalistic construct? Shift the way you live your life to intentionally become a climate action warrior. Use your voice, your strength, your courage as medicine to stand up and demand immediate changes to halt further destruction and promote ways to heal our planet. Our battle is not going to be easy, and you may get frustrated and want to give up, but you must keep going today, tomorrow, and for as long as it takes so that our future generations may thrive. You must love yourself and everything around you so deeply to activate the most powerful weapon to combat and overcome this war, which is simply the medicine and power that love evokes. Yes, love is the answer. We hear it in the whispers from our ancestors as we look up to the sky full of stars, with each baby's voices from our grandma's loving arms. It is the most beautiful feeling to receive and give. We must remind those who are lost, angry, and terrorized that they will always be loved in our Mother Earth's eyes. Rise up, take action, and inspire others to do the same. It's not too late, but we can't wait to take action today.
Wow, that was amazing.
Thank you. I have a few slides to go back. I see it played a little bit ahead with my pace. So this poem was something that I woke up to after a full night's rest and sat with what I wanted to share with you today. If we can go to the last 4 slides, I believe. I have some local calls to action. So if we go back, so I have some book recommendations here, but we just need to understand that climate action is environmental and social justice. And so this slide deck is available for you to view. This book here talks about what we're experiencing with climate action or things with ecological issues here in our community. And then if we go on to the next slide, please. So this area here shows all the hot spots and the areas that are at risk for the tides rising here within the Bay Area. And if we go to the next slide, this right here is through ABAG, and those same spots show that the areas that are at risk, some of the greatest areas that are at risk are our most vulnerable communities, those who have lower incomes, those who are marginally, vulnerable. We have those who are elders, we have our immigrant relatives. And so ways to better understand what is happening in each of our communities and be at the table with us to help policy to protect our land, to protect our people and our natural resources. And then the next slide, please. And then just as a reminder, if everyone is not already in relation with Segorite, the incredible work that Segorite does here locally and globally, they're just an incredible organization to support. So this is a current project that they're working on in Vallejo. So they're asking to protect Glen Cove and to pay Shumi tax. A Run for Salmon just ended, but if you're not familiar with that, wanting to know more about that. And then the next slide, please. And then something that hasn't gained a lot of awareness here locally, but this is Thacker Pass, which is on the California border in Nevada. And it's going to be the largest lithium mine in the world. We are asking for protection of Thacker Pass. So I encourage you all to become informed and be active in that. And the next slide, please. And so just thinking of ways that you can be active in your community. Silence is not going to get us anywhere. So we really need you to use your voice, use your platform, share widely on social media, areas that are of importance in our communities and help us advocate together, because it's going to take us all. And the next slide, please. And then that's how you can stay in touch with me. And I'm here for any questions that y'all may have.
Wow, thank you so much, Carrie. I mean, what a beautiful idea to say a poem and have the visuals. That, I mean, in each slide was amazing. So I really, really, really thought that was so beautiful and a unique way to present, especially with you walking and being out in nature. That was really, really beautiful. Thank you. Do you want to say anything else? You have like a couple more minutes, Carrie.
I just want to say that part of the work that we may not understand, and as I continue to collect years and add to my age, which I'm very comfortable with, I learn more from our youth, our elders, and everyone in our community. But I feel that land is really the source. It's going to connect and heal us all. And it's our common ground. And I think that if people aren't familiar with their ancestors, that's a good place to start and really, look within, because as much as we talk about intergenerational trauma, we have intergenerational courage and wisdom and love. And we need to be reminded of that. And we need to know our own roots in order to heal ourselves, our past generations that didn't have the resources that we have today, and everything that they endured, to be able to help them feel at peace. Because we hear about 7 generations, but we are in that 7th fire right now. We are who our ancestors prayed for. And so we can remind them that all of their efforts and their hard work had meaning and significance, and we value and appreciate them so much. And, to love ourselves and forgive ourselves for, things that we misstepped and, didn't quite understand, or didn't have the knowledge or opportunities or resources, and allow us grace to be who we are in this moment, and to also just really show up for our kids and our community, and just love each other as we are related. It's a phrase we hear and it's spoken very freely, but if we really consider that we are all relations, as people and all living creatures, that love is what we actually need to help unite people and, lower those defenses. And that was really how I thought about it, is people that we don't agree with and people that are causing so much harm, they have pain that they haven't really acknowledged. And, it's allowing them to be vulnerable, that so that they can move through that and we can all come together in a good place.
Thank you, Carrie. And we just recently met, and when we were at a meeting, and I got triggered as soon as I entered that meeting, and just being in your presence, and I didn't know you, but when you introduced yourself, I was just like, wow, you just calmed me down. You were just, I mean, just being, you don't even know how much you touched me that day and changed like my whole being in that moment. It was beautiful, and you just did it for all of us just now. So thank you so much. That was really, really amazing. Bringing tears to my eyes. But thank you so
Cheryl.
much.
And one last thing I guess I can close with, it's something that Matika Wilbur shared with me. I met her earlier this spring, and it's something that is a passion project that I'm working on currently. I I'm a child author, or well, an author. I have a children's book that will be launched in a year. It's called The Great Shift, and it's co-authored with Nyasha Williams. But something that Matika Wilbur told me was, remember, you are medicine. And I want you all to think about that today, that each of us hold medicine in our own unique way, and we have the ability to change the world. So remember that.
Thank you. So I'll be happy to introduce our next speaker. Unless Natalie would like to take it.
I can
Maybe.
introduce her. And Janelle just
Okay,
messaged me
great.
saying that her Wi-Fi cut out and that she apologizes. So
Okay, no
sorry.
worries.
Sorry about that. So again, my name is Natalie. I'm a College Corps Fellow. I'm so excited to be here, and I'm excited to introduce Pat St. Ange from Mills College at Northeastern University with a program titled "The Earth is Our Mother, We Must Take Care of Her." Thank you.
Thank you, Natalie. Pat, are you ready?
I am. But
Yay.
my technical difficulty this morning is I got stuck in this little circle. Sego sewa guego. Patricia ni Quebecois tano ikok peshni ichiwi ni Lakota tano ganyangeha. Hello, everybody. My name is my French Canadian name is Patricia. I'm Mohawk and I don't have a name. And I am adopted Cheyenne River Lakota, and Ikok Peshni Ichiwi is my Lakota name. I'm really happy to be here with you today. So I was going to sing, and I feel shy about that, so maybe at the end. If we were in a room together, I'd invite you to turn to your neighbor and share about what gives you joy and what makes you come alive. Think for a minute. How does it feel when someone brings you joy? When you bring it to someone else? So I'm part of a community in East Oakland. We've put 3 houses together and we have a farm, and our kind of guiding principle is a quote from Howard Thurman, who was an African-American theologian who founded the Church of All People in San Francisco. And he said, don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive and go do that, because the world needs people who have come alive. So what makes me come alive is teaching and bringing people together for conversations. And so I was really excited when I got invited by Cheryl to be with you today. So one of the here's what I'd like to say for today. One of the core values of the Mohawk culture is reciprocity. It's interesting that you have 2 of us from the Northeast. And so I think it's true for Indigenous communities more broadly that reciprocity is a core value. Another is joy. So what do we mean when we say the earth is our mother? We must take care of her. That's the song. The earth is our mother. We must take care of her. The earth is our mother. We must take care of her. So that came in my mind as I was thinking about what I wanted to say today. And so what surfaced is a reminder that the Indigenous understanding of of the relationship that is with the mother and with each other is that we are all related. It's reflected in our languages. And I'm just kindergarten equivalent to my understanding of the Mohawk language. But Ojistonha Ohunja is our mother, the one who gives us all we need to thrive. Our response, our care, is an organically grateful response for what she does. Unchi Maka is Grandmother Earth in Lakota. When I became a grandmother, I understood really in a visceral way the depth of care and love, as well as the futuristic orientation that way of seeing invites in us. So I'm aware now, as I just celebrated my 70th birthday, that I've been here longer than I have left to live. It seems a natural shift. It seems natural now to shift my focus to future generations. And it's with that heart and mind that I helped form the 1,000 Grandmothers for Future Generations. Holly Near wrote a song, the gist of which is, when you're in trouble, when you want to get things done, send in 1,000 grandmothers, because they don't care much anymore what people think of them. They'll do what they think is most important to do, to care for and protect the future generations. There's a great story about a group of grandmothers in West Africa who the village was being taken over by trucks and soldiers who were coming in tanks and all of that. And the grandmothers from the village all stood in line between the trucks and tanks and the people of the village, and they took off their shirts. They were like, you may not enter. And that's the energy with which we really feel our responsibility as grandmothers, that those trucks stopped and turned around and left. And so that's what we feel like we want to be. That's the presence that we want to be in the movement to change the climate crisis and to bring people together to work together. And so we often stand between young folks at rallies and stuff and the police. And the police don't mess with us. So it's been an interesting experience for me to be part of that. So if we live into this understanding that we are part of a continuum and that each generation can play a role in making reminding each other that the earth is our mother and we have a responsibility for her care, then what do we need to pay attention to? So one, I think we have to shift from a conventional Western view that we're in a vertical relationship where we're on top. The very first book in the Bible, Genesis, says, be fruitful, multiply, and have dominion over the earth. And so the way that Western culture has interpreted that has meant, with that as our orientation, the only way we can really relate is to create a hierarchy and put humans at the top. So when settlers first came, one of the projects was to go all over and name everything, and that was kind of an act of dominion over it. So if we look at it through the lens of all our relations, which is I'm sure you've heard folks say Omatakwesin, which is the Lakota way of saying all my relations. In Mohawk, we have a word called Olunta, and it means the spark of the divine, the spark of the spark of a shared identity, a shared relationship that is in every being. So if we can hold that as a lens through which we look at what's going on in the world, how the climate crisis has emerged has a lot to do with the fact that we corporations, certainly corporations becoming people is a horrific idea, but people who run those corporations, all of us in our own little ways, forget that we're related or don't even get it in the first place. And so our recognition of I'm sorry, I just lost my if, on the other hand, we see it as a reciprocal relationship, we start by acknowledging and understanding deeply in a place that we can inhabit beyond time and space, we are responding to what's already been given to us. So it's not like we have to go out there and find the truth. It's already here. It's already in us. It's a lifting of the veils and taking away of the lies and the deceptions to recapture and reimagine that we already have those gifts. And our recognition of the gifts we've received inspires us to ensure that life continues. So it's knowing who we are and what our relationships to all of our relatives is what motivates us. And that is much more fun and more deeply satisfying to give from that place of reciprocity and gratitude than from one of obligation. So today I invite you to try on gratitude as a motivator for all the work that you do. You likely won't work less hard, but my own experience is that I have much more joy and even have fun. So, the grandmothers have these singing circles where we'll take a Saturday afternoon and sit together and sing, and they're beautiful. I'm sorry, I'm so shaky here. I'm in bed I'm recovering from a severed Achilles tendon. And so my laptop is on my lap, literally, and it's got this funky thing going on. So I'm having to hold it. So sorry for that distraction. Anyway. So I'm wishing you joy and gratitude instead of only obligation. I think obligation is not a terrible thing, but I think if it's the only thing that motivates us, it can be discouraging and exhausting. So I would invite you to listen to the rest of what's happening today with ears of gratitude and joy. Thanks. So I think we have time.
Thank you.
I think we have time for
Pat.
questions.
Yeah, we do. You can take a few questions. Please raise your hand if you have questions for Pat.
This is too distracting.
And I'm sorry about your Achilles tendon.
Yeah. It's almost better. It's been 11 months.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I don't see any hands raised. Do you want to share a little bit more? Oh, one, I see one. Um,
Hi,
um, go ahead,
I wanted to ask Pat.
Dorethia. Or X,
Aixa.
AIXA is also
Aixa.
someone that, okay, thank you. I didn't want to butcher it, but go ahead.
I was just curious about the three houses in East Oakland that are farm. Like where is it? Is it possible to see it, or what can you tell me about it?
Yeah, so it's on 39th Avenue, just above MacArthur. And you can recognize it because the houses are all painted some combination of a kind of teal and white and salmon. So our house is the teal one because it's the smallest, and then there's a couple of bigger houses and they are white, and one has teal trimming and one has salmon trimming. And when you go up from the street, it looks like just three houses, but when you go in the back, there's 2 acres of land. And we have a yurt back there that we lived in for a while when our daughter was living in the house. And we had a farm with goats and chickens and a little pig, and then the primary farmer moved away and the goats got into everything. So we gave them away, and the pig had too much access to, scrounging, and got too big for his feet and legs. And so we had to have him be in a place where he would be more confined. And we have folks here who are, they call themselves fresh out, but they're not so fresh out anymore. They were incarcerated. And so nothing has been caged. We've tried to, it created a disaster with the chickens, but so we've really, as a community, tried to make this space reflect our values in the deepest ways, and sometimes it's been wildly successful and sometimes not at all.
Okay, thank you for that question. We have 2 other hands up and a question in the chat, which I think got answered, about the 1,000 grandmothers. But Dorethia is next, and then Lynette.
Hi, Pat. It's so good to
Hi.
see you. How you doing? I'm sorry to hear that you're about your tendon. I hope you heal it. That takes forever to heal. But I just wanted to thank you for your words to us. I mean, for all the words this morning, but your words just were for me a capper on what everyone else has said, that the power of love is healing, and that we have the power to heal. And I just think it's that, yeah. And so I want to know, are you still at the University Chapel? And would you tell people about it, and it's open to the public? And where do you join the grandmothers? I'm a grandmother too.
That's right. So let's be in touch.
Yes, I know where to find you.
Okay, great.
But could you tell the people about the the philosophy and where we can access
the grandmothers? So the first part of your question, yes, I'm at Mills College, which is now called Mills College at Northeastern University, because we were closing and they came and kind of bought us out. And the chapel is open. I'm there just 3 days, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday afternoons, but it's
Are you teaching?
No, not since I took on the chaplain role. I decided not to, although I'm looking at the possibility of teaching decolonizing spirituality.
That's what I know you taught that before, and that's what I
Yeah.
was wondering if you were still doing that. But thank you. And yeah, I'll get in touch.
So what I'd like to do with the decolonizing spirituality class is have it be pass-fail for students and open to the public, so that it's a joint project with the community and the campus. But I'm still, it's early in my getting to know folks there, so I'm negotiating that at this point. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Lynette, you want to ask your question real quick?
Sorry about that. My question was about the grandmothers. Do you have a lot of activities, and where do you publish the information?
So yes, it's called the 1,000 Grandmothers for Future Generations. We have a Facebook page and a website. We were a little bit quiet during the pandemic, but we're resurfacing, and there's, it's all, we go out whenever we can. Some folks are going to Sacramento this week, and so it's a wonderful group. When we first started, everybody laughed at us because there were 7 of us, and we called ourselves the 1,000 Grandmothers for Future Generations, but now we're over 1,500. So it's a wonderful place. Many of us have longtime activists, and the idea, our society is kind of a throwaway society for elders, and this is a way for us to come together with people that understand the challenges of aging and work together, so our expectations are aligned with who we are as elder women. And there's now there's the they're not called auxiliaries, something. There's a larger group of folks who support the 1,000 Grandmothers who are not grandmothers. And our idea is not that you have to have physical grandchildren, but that you have a heart for the future generations. And so, so it's a wonderful, I love that group.
Well, that's great. Thank you so much. You answered all my questions, even though I was going to ask you if you had to be a grandmother, because I'm 70 years old, but I'm a great auntie, not a grandmother.
Totally welcome.
It's so nice. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Pat, Patricia. That was amazing. And now we're going to have Livy introduce our next speaker.
Hi, it's Livy again, and I'm excited to introduce Patrick Naranjo, the Executive Director of the American Indian Graduate Program at the University of California, Berkeley, for their talk, Recruitment and Retention, Indigenous Perspectives and Environment at UC Berkeley.
Good morning, everybody. I'm from Santa Clara Pueblo. My name is Patrick Naranjo. I'm the current director of the American Indian Graduate Program, and I want to talk a little bit about recruitment and retention here at UC Berkeley, and a little bit, I think, of our strategy at the moment in terms of how we better support our students in terms of who they are at a place like Berkeley, and how do we recruit additional students, right, and do a better job around these conversations. Let me see if I can share my screen today. So I have a slideshow I'd like to present today. So give me 1 second.
Thank you, Patrick. It was wonderful to meet you that day. And it was just a random meeting, as was Carrie's, and here you are. So thank you.
And thank you so much for the opportunity, Cheryl, and members of the Climate Emergency Mobilization Task Force. Very excited to highlight Indigenous student perspectives regarding social justice, climate, and the Academy here at UC Berkeley. So like I said, my name is Patrick Naranjo. I'm a graduate from Haskell Indian Nations University, which is a tribal college in Lawrence, Kansas. I feel that that is something that is very meaningful for our new strategy here at Berkeley. Obviously, better serving students such as myself within these spaces, but then also I think fine-tuning new contemporary applications around professional development and what places like UC Berkeley do for individuals like us, and how we further raise the profile of the Academy here. And so let me see if I can share my, move my presentation here. Okay, so I'm gonna give everybody a little bit, well, let me run through these things. Foremost, I'm a tribal member of Santa Clara Pueblo, but I'm also a guest in the state of California to do this work, right? I'm also a graduate from UCLA with a particular emphasis on cultural property protection. I feel that these are all contemporary topics that remain within these spaces for folks like us. And really, I think, speak to our contemporary applications of who we are, where we come from, and where we choose to go. One thing I also like to mention, in my previous role, I'm one of the founding members of the UNLV intersection, which is something that I'll talk a little bit more in my spiel as we move along. But very interested to highlight, I work with tribes, all 27 tribes, as the tribal liaison for UNLV. Was also a program coordinator for the UNLV intersection, which is a academic multicultural center, right? And so again, emphasizing Indigenous perspectives in the Academy within statewide efforts. And some of this work, right, in Nevada on behalf of UNLV moved over into the political context, where we sponsored Indigenous applications with both the Basin and Range Monument designation and the Gold Butte Monument designation, and also protection of those landscapes within the recent Trump Zinke monument review, which took place some time ago. But let me get started with a few things. So, as I mentioned, I'm a guest here in the state of California to do this work. But something that I really value around, creating this emphasis at Berkeley is that I am somewhat of an academic, right? And I want to be a little bit, clear about that, because I feel that during this time, given the history of Indian education and current contemporary identity, we want to be seen within these spaces. And like I mentioned before, our experience and narratives definitely raise the profile of institutions like Berkeley. We need to start with the land. That is something that is obviously very important for a lot of reasons. But one thing that I value about that here at UC Berkeley is creating that accountability for the traditional stewards that are still here within the Bay Area, and to also highlight that UC Berkeley is in fact a land grant institution that was developed from the Morrill Act. And I feel that that is also a part of these conversations moving forward in terms of healing, right, of histories and harmful kinds of narratives, but also I think reinforcing things that are new, things that are important to places like Berkeley and folks like myself, and what they mean for Indigenous identities overall. So this is a video that we created in partnership with Cal Athletics, right? I do like to show this video because, again, I feel that this represents some of the transparency of these efforts moving forward at Berkeley. It is athletics, and it is somewhat of a visual representation of Indigenous history and heritage at Berkeley, but it does represent partnerships and things moving forward from a contemporary setting. So let me play the land acknowledgement for you.
Cal family, we have learned a lot during Indigenous Heritage Month from our Indigenous brothers and sisters. This land acknowledgement is just the beginning. Among other things, we have learned that a land acknowledgement is not really for Indigenous people. It is actually intended for the rest of us to recognize and articulate our relationship with the land that we occupy, and to communicate our commitment to action and stewardship.
Dr. Kutcha Risling Baldy noted, "Honor us by the action that you will engage." While a land acknowledgement is simply not enough by itself, we are excited to use the platform of the Cal Athletics Department to amplify awareness around the significance of the Indigenous land where our university sits and benefits. We commit to continual education, empowering ourselves and our community to best serve Native peoples and Indigenous lands.
As a senior leader in Cal Athletics, I'm grateful for the continuous support from key campus partners in the Office of Graduate Diversity and the American Indian Graduate Program. Their engagement has led to meaningful relationship cultivation and dialogue throughout our department, including sharing their experiences and truths at Cal Athletics Directors Cabinet meetings very recently.
Cal Athletics amplifies Native American student development's recognition that UC Berkeley sits on the territory of Huichin, the ancestral unceded land of the Chochenyo-speaking Ohlone people,
the successors of the sovereign Verona Band of Alameda County. This land was and continues to be of great importance to the Mi'kmaq Ohlone tribe and other familial descendants of the Verona Band.
We recognize that every member of the Berkeley community has and continues to benefit from
the use and occupation of this land since the institution's founding in 1868.
Consistent with the values of our community, inclusion and diversity,
we have a responsibility to acknowledge and make visible the university's relationship to Native peoples.
As members of the Berkeley community, it is vitally important that we not only recognize the history of the land which we stand on,
but also we recognize that the Mi'kmaq Ohlone people are alive and flourishing members of the Berkeley and broader Bay Area communities today.
Support local businesses owned by Native peoples.
Make a donation to the Shumi land tax, which directly supports Sagorati's work of rematriation, returning Indigenous land to Indigenous peoples at sagoratilandtrust.org. We are still here.
We are still here.
We
are still here.
We are still here.
Cal family.
Okay. So I'll try to be quick because I really want to provide an administrative overhead, something that kind of speaks to the transparency that we saw in the video, right? And I think informs folks about the AIGP program, some of our additional resources that are available here at Berkeley, and kind of where things are, if you will. And I do hope to get through the admin talk very quickly and open it up for Q&A, and to also, I think, highlight some of my perspectives as the director of the AIGP program. But to get things started, right, and I'll try my best to move quickly. So, as a part of UC Berkeley's mission to foster academic excellence through diversity, the AIGP program provides you with service and advocacy to remove perceived barriers that prevent the full participation of American Indian, Indigenous, Alaska Native students participating in graduate level research here at UC Berkeley. The initial AIGP program was established in 1971 at the School of Public Health. This was developed with the intention to respond to a need for more American Indian and Alaska Natives into graduate research study, in particular with an emphasis for more Native American health professionals. The current AIGP program is a unique program whose mission is to increase the number of American Indian, Indigenous identified graduate students who apply and enroll here at Berkeley, and more importantly, reinforces an intersectional student development framework and infrastructure by highlighting and celebrating Indigenous applications within graduate level research to ensure full student participation. This is demonstrated by providing mentorship, reinforcement, and by coordinating, facilitating the specific resources to members of the Berkeley Native and Indigenous community so that additional diverse, intersectional identified grad students and undergrads, right, can realize their full potential at Berkeley in a safe campus setting. An intersectional approach regarding indigeneity removes colonial constructs and boundaries and emphasizes a contemporary approach around identity and application. The American Indian Graduate Program has fostered a new approach towards Berkeley research that can integrate additional diverse ways of knowing and inclusion of Indigenous methodologies and concepts of tribal stewardship within the Academy that are aligned with professional career goals our narratives of how we enter these places, and really representative of the home communities which our worldviews come from. One of the exciting new opportunities we have at Berkeley is the Native Fuse Alliance, which I'll talk a little bit more of here at the end of my spiel. But that grant really represents some of the new applications around these topics. Fuse, Native Fuse, FEWS, stands for Food, Energy, Water Systems, and UC Berkeley is a part of that National Alliance, which is a NSF-funded opportunity, but Berkeley is one of the leads within that effort, and I'll talk a little bit more about that at the end. A little bit about the goals of the AIGP program. We're here to directly enhance the grad student experience for Native Americans in all colleges and schools in efforts to transform the intellectual atmosphere and the climate here at Berkeley. This provides greater educational opportunities for Native and Indigenous identified students nationally and creates a significant cultural and economic impact on behalf of the Office of Graduate Diversity and the American Indian Graduate Program. Our efforts will visibly centralize graduate level resources and departments to enhance Indigenous student navigation and further community development for Native American individuals, Indigenous individuals, and their home tribal communities. AIGP maintains appropriate recruitment and outreach strategies designed to increase mass, particularly in fields central to growing Berkeley graduate level scholarship, sustaining these Native economic and cultural kinds of lifeways, if you will. This effort is further aligned with the new NAOP tuition program, or the Native American Opportunity Program, NAOP, which is a resource to support this transparency and new efforts at places like Berkeley in AIGP, which will work with graduate programs to develop ongoing workshops, trainings, and other communications around this resource to foster excellence or to further excellence in mentorship, leadership, and obviously all levels of educational engagement and diversity here at Berkeley. The goal is to increase the number of Native grad students to be proportionate with Berkeley's growth and the diverse overall graduate student body, and identify and seek resources, That's a very important part for supporting and growing Native American graduate students here at Berkeley. To be specific, AIGP reinforces the appropriate strategies to increase this mass within international, Indigenous, national, tribal, all UC, all California state, non-federally, federally recognized entities, the entire gamut, to support contemporary applications for Indigenous grad students here at Berkeley and the topics that they pursue. This particular recruitment and outreach model will serve as an ongoing application on behalf of AIGP to provide visibility, as we saw in the video, towards existing fields in academia that are central to growing Berkeley graduate student base, and better support Indigenous scholarship in a transparent method, and elevate these topics that sustain Native American economies and cultural epistemologies, so that these relationships, I know I talked about Indian education and history, so these relationships can better flourish moving forward in an academic setting like UC Berkeley. And so that really does kind of stop my administrative overhead, and I really would like to maybe jump into some of the new things that we're considering here in the Office for Graduate Diversity and the American Indian Graduate Program. Some of our wonderful resources that we have available. And I think maybe just to contrast how unique this conversation currently resides here at Berkeley around recruitment, retention, and reinforcement of Indigenous students. I kind of want to pivot at this moment, and open up a conversation around Wisdom Sits in Places, which is a scholarship article written by Keith Basso, who is obviously a Western anthropologist, etymologist. But as we've heard today at the summit, Indigenous Native identity is directly related to landscape. And when entering academic spaces like Berkeley, I think it's very fair to broadly entertain these ideas, right? And maybe to kind of contrast some of these worldviews, if you will, around things in academia, things that I think informed Western culture around these worldviews, things that were overlooked in terms of how they sit with our current identities and the home communities that we represent. And more importantly, right, how we as student individuals entering these places like Berkeley need the support to feel a sense of belonging, but also a sense of reinforcement, if you will, or additional support to speak about the things within academia that are so much a part of our lives that make us feel alienated within these spaces, or perhaps we have to counter navigate some of those histories within these spaces, and that becomes difficult, right? This document that Basso wrote is really something that anthropologically established place-based learning, or that scholarly relationship with indigeneity and land, right? It was written in 1996, and it took place in Apache country, right? And I just want to read a little bit of the preface and then move over into some of the contemporary individuals and things that are happening at Berkeley. But I hope that this can kind of frame the conversation for the next part of the conversation. In the preface, Basso mentions, what do people make of places? The question is as old as people and places themselves, as old as human attachments to portions of the earth, as old perhaps as the idea of home, of our territory as opposed to their territory, of entire regions and local landscapes where groups of men and women have invested themselves, their thoughts, their values, their collective sensibilities, and of which they feel they belong, okay? There's another paragraph that I'm just going to skip through for timing, but the next, he revisits by saying, it is then we come to see that attachments to places may be nothing less than profound, and that when these attachments are threatened, we may feel threatened as well. Places, we realize, are as much a part of us as we are a part of them. And the sense of place, yours, mine, and everyone else, partake complexity of both. And so, unavoidably, senses of place also partake of cultures, of shared bodies of local knowledge, with which persons and whole communities render their places meaningful and endow them with social importance. Yet, cultural anthropologists, some of whom work for years in communities where ties to place are vital and deep-seated, have not until recently had much to say about them, right? Basically, Basso's work, Wisdom Sits in Places, had three parts to it, right? Traveling with Apache consultants, many with whom were active or retired horsemen, to hundreds of named localities in the greater Apache region, talking with consultants frequently in their homes, right? About places and place names and the stories that lie behind them. And lastly, listening with a newly sensitized ear to how place names get used in daily conversation by Apache men and women. Now, he had first gone to Apache country as a 19-year-old college student, and very, very, captivated by Apache culture. In the years that followed, he wrote a lot of articles around ceremonial symbolism, classificatory verb stems, witchcraft beliefs, patterns of silence, and social interaction. All of these things that are very much core parts to our identity and our narrative, right? Lastly, I want to end the preface with a statement from a tribal representative, and I think this kind of moves us into the conversation I would like to have. During his time there, Basso received his answer from Ronnie Lupp, chairman of the White Mountain Apache tribe, a keenly intelligent man with a splendid gift for his own Apache language and an abiding interest in the Apache region where he was born and raised. Ronnie says to Keith, "Why don't you make maps over there?" The chairman suggested firmly in his office at White River one day. not white man's maps. We've got plenty of those, but Apache maps with Apache places and names. We could use them. Find something about how we know our country. You should have done this before. Basso replied to Mr. Love's suggestion, or was it a directive? Having discussed it at length with some of his friends in the region, he then informed Ronnie that he was prepared to begin, right? And so let me stop sharing here for a second and move into the conversation. Now, what we kind of identified, right, were a lot of things that were overlooked from, I think the history of research and I think academia entering these spaces from a researcher perspective, right? And I think that that approach historically has created current barriers within these spaces. And when we look at the importance of Berkeley as an institution, and like I had started with how some of us, American Indian, Santa Clara tribal members, indigenous folks, like to be in these places to talk about things that we are very much a part of and represent those home communities that essentially, equipped us with these epistemologies. And so it becomes very interesting, right, at this time to revisit some of these conversations in the academy, some of these barriers that are specific to a place like UC Berkeley, but to also highlight new things, new applications, and to also, I think, make a safe space for folks that are just like myself, right? At the beginning, I did mention a project that we are a part of, which is called the Native Fuse Alliance. Please look this up. We have a beautiful website. But basically, to cover this, right, the Native Fuse Alliance is focusing its efforts on two interconnected challenges: a crisis to access in food, energy, and water in indigenous communities, and the paucity of educational and career pathways available to indigenous peoples to address this crisis within their home communities. And so those are very specific kinds of applications for a place like Berkeley, right, to really join the conversation around what individuals or students find the most important of where they come from and where they are now entering within these spaces. The idea is to address fuse challenges in indigenous communities, co-develop integrated indigenous place-based fuse curricula, right, something that we just went over, mentorship and practice experiences from a career setting. The idea is to transform institutional STEM fields to be relevant, obviously, and accessible to indigenous students and communities. The plan is to utilize curricula and interventions to recruit, retain, and graduate indigenous students to pursue higher education and careers in food, energy, water systems, right? And on behalf of their home communities, to bring knowledge back and to equip other individuals from their support networks. And so I can stop there if anybody has any immediate questions, but I did kind of want to jump into a few things about some resources that we have as well. And I know I'm also over time. I apologize for that. Are there any quick questions that folks have? I will do my best to skip to the end here. Some of the new applications and resources that we have here at Berkeley are the Diversity Community Fellows, some of whom have been assigned to the American Indian Graduate Program. Oh, give me a second here. These are new individuals. We have about 33 grad students that all focus on anti-racist narratives. Some of these individuals focus on a strong emphasis of indigenous views, but they will be working with me through the Office of Graduate Diversity to, I think, really advance that grad student lens and to complement that intersectional research approach. Oh goodness. We have a new, let me see here. We have a new Inclusive Excellence Hub, which is going to be opening up in January of next semester. But the idea is to centralize all of these resources and individuals here under one location. We also have a Native American Community Center, previously Anthony Hall here on campus, which is maintained by my colleague, Fenosha Barley, Director of the Native American Student Development Program. Very excited to highlight that new location as a part of these things move forward, but also to complement a space here on campus, which I think is very much a part of the Berkeley conversation. And so let me run to the end because I know I'm way over on time, but I did want to share this particular slide because this is one of the first individuals that we brought for a speaker series with the Food, Energy, Water System Alliance here at Berkeley. So give me 1 second. Can you see that there? So this is Peter Nelson. Now, oh goodness. I'm very excited to highlight Peter because Peter is a UC Berkeley Native American Graduate Student Association, now the Indigenous Grad Student Association alumni. And he previously served in a leadership capacity on behalf of the cohort here at Berkeley, and he is now faculty. He does excellent work around California law AB 52, which provides information to assist in the implementation of tribal cultural resource impacts and cultural consultation requirements, right? And so under AB 52, tribes now have a application to say that these are cultural resources that are within our landscape or advocate for that protection. Now, I talked about mentorship and intersectionality within my shop talk. Peter, as an individual here at Berkeley, represents everything within his research and his narrative around equipping these indigenous perspectives and intersections of things like archaeology and contemporary tribal applications right around environment. We were able to host Peter last Friday for our inaugural speaker series, which is a part of the Indigenous Excellence Fuse Laboratory, which is all the work of GSRs Braylon Martin and Natasha Bepath, both also members of the Indigenous Graduate Student Association, who are taking a lead to plan a whole fall program of Indigenous individuals, right, working around academia and food, energy, water systems. And again, the idea is for AIGP to reinforce individuals around mentorship, obviously the topics that they work on here at places like Berkeley, celebrate them within professional career kinds of roles, and to also recruit additional students, right, that may or may not feel like Berkeley is the place for them to talk about these conversations, inform their colleagues, their department, but more importantly, their home communities and individuals, just like Patrick, who may or may not want to come to a place like UC Berkeley. So I will totally stop because I lost track of time. But please, if there are any questions, ask. I hope I covered some of the material that I intended here in my conversation, but please follow us on Facebook. And also, please feel free to email me directly at pnaranjo@berkeley.edu or aigp@berkeley.edu for any questions that you have. We are actively recruiting, and as I mentioned, there's a new tuition resource that's available called the NAOP program, which I can also answer questions and facilitate some of that conversation for you here at Berkeley. So thank you so much. I know I talk a lot, but I did want to get some of this information out the front door to speak, so to speak, and thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Patrick. That was amazing. I mean, I had no idea all that was going on at UC Berkeley. And I'm sure lots of others don't either. So they're so lucky to have you in their corner. So thank you very much. There is a hand raised by Willie. Go ahead, Willie.
Patrick, if I recall, we met at Pete's Coffee.
Yes.
And it was, if anything, it was synergistic. in terms of you being here and actually Cheryl actually helping to facilitate you being here. But I wanted to ask you a very simple question, if I may. Is there any interaction with the African American Studies Department and your department?
That is the idea by the 33 diversity community fellows that I had mentioned. This is somewhat of a new initiative, and they are funded, I should mention, because living in the Bay Area does become somewhat of a difficult topic. But these individuals focus on anti-racist narratives as individuals, as students themselves within their own capacity, but also in the research that they work on. And so the idea is to equip our intersectional, diverse, identified grad students, I will say grad students, and to also reinforce that intersectional overlap, if you will, because, well, that's absolutely right. I mean, here in 2023, the Indigenous, through an intersectional lens, has many additional identities and narratives that complement that view. And when we enter spaces like Berkeley and we talk about Indigenous history and colonial constructs of identity, we want folks to feel like researchers primarily first, and to validate themselves and their colleagues as scholars within the space. So that's a new lift, but we do have some intentional overlap from a grad student lens for those conversations around African American, Asian American, LGBTQ, veterans, first generation college participants, disabled folks, you name it. The idea is to complement the academic narrative.
Thank you, Patrick. Aurora has her hand raised, and that will be the last question, but can you do it quickly, Aurora?
I hope so. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. I put a question actually in the chat, but it is regarding Patrick. Thank you for your work and your bridging these worlds. And I'm interested in the specific issue around People's Park as a land, open space, climate adaptive open space that we, the people, own through our tax dollars. And UC Berkeley is supposed to be a steward of the people and our monies. And yet this is very contentious piece of land that, also as a piece of history, a remembrance, and a place where people still have the sovereignty to lay on the ground overnight without having to pay money or show ID. And I believe it's one of the last places in the Bay Area where that can still happen. And so I want to bring it forward here in this call. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much for that. And please,
thank you, Aurora. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I just want to mention, folks, please contact me for any questions. There are no stupid questions. I know I do the administrative talk a lot, but I really would like to just be Patrick, and please contact me for any questions. I am one of these Native students that enter these spaces. And so please, I'm a resource that's available for anything that you need here at Berkeley on behalf of graduate programming. So just holler at me.
Thank you so much, Patrick. I'm so blessed that we ran into each other at Pete's Coffee, as Willie stated. You never know who you're going to meet, when, or where. So thank you so much for being here. And next we were supposed to have a break, but I don't think we can because we're running over. So do you want to introduce Paul, please?
Hi, yes. Again, my name is Natalie. I would love to introduce Paul Kealoha Blake and his talk on colonization, cash, not care. I apologize if I mispronounce your middle name. I apologize.
Thank you, Natalie, and thank you, Paul, for being here.
Thank you. And you did great on the name pronunciation. Thank you. I'm Paul Kealoha Blake. I've been thinking as I've been listening to the other speakers, what I bring other than I don't have any cash. I'm not too excited about colonization, as you could probably tell. I was brought to this forum primarily by my former council member, Cheryl Davila. And I kind of want to begin there because that is my beginning of history with this group, is through her. I recognize a lot of the names in the attending here, and I've met many of you. I really like that. But primarily, I'm uncredentialed. I have nothing special about me, other than I feel like I'm sort of wandering and walking, which brings me back to Cheryl, of all of the people who went into that council. Cheryl Davila is the only person who took me up on the opportunity to simply walk. So that's something that I do, is I walk a lot. And I'm walking through the residue of colonization and capitalism. I do that every day. I'm going to end this call as soon as I'm done here and go back into the streets. I've been holding annex office hours at Pete's Coffee, and I've really enjoyed it. I've met many of you at Pete's. The main points that I want to make this morning is that colonization is interested in cash, not caring for our environment. The result is what we experience now within our communities. And that leaves sort of human beachcombers like myself out in the streets dealing with issues that primarily have been brought to us by colonizers. So they come, colonization comes, even in the discovery of America, it was to ship things back to Europe, not to help the people that were here. And this continues to this point. We have in Lahaina, which has been experienced devastating fires, we have people, colonizers, trying to buy land. The issue is land. What can people give? They can give the indigenous people back their land. It's very simple. It's not that difficult in terms of concept. It's difficult in terms of humanity. Humans act like humans. Colonizers and capitalism are interested in capital. The land is not about capital. The land is about the people and community. That's a difficult marriage to make, but we have to make it. And we can do that by being cooperative. One of the reasons that I'm here today is that I really enjoy hearing from other people and what they're doing. And I've appreciated each speaker this morning, and I appreciate Cheryl for inviting me here. But primarily what I am doing is simply walking through our communities, ladies and gentlemen, seeing what I do, doing what I do. I have a passion for mental health. We are constantly in crisis with mental health in all of our communities. It's not just indigenous communities. We're impacted nationally, globally, by our current mental health. We've undergone trauma after trauma after trauma, and we must cooperate and work together to rise up from this. And we as indigenous people could do that better on our land. Regarding People's Park, I appreciate the questioning around that. I personally don't see what the issue is. They're claiming housing for the indigent. Why not just UC step out of the program and let People's Park be? We need a park. It's simple. Again, I have all of these simple answers that I hear because I'm associated with people that are in the streets. I'm associated with our community. And along those lines, I'm not going to take up a lot of your time this morning. I know, and you know, what you experience when you're out in the world. And what we experience has not been very satisfactory, but those solutions are within our grasp if we take them together. I swear it works. It does work. That's how we've arrived where we are now. But we've had to do this alone in separate entities, as a colonizing group, as an indigenous group. We don't need to be separate. We want our land back. I know that. If people ask me, we just presented a benefit for the people of Lahaina at Freight and Salvage. People were constantly asking, other than money, Paul, what can we give? How can we help? You can give the land back. You can find ways to work with indigenous people around guardianship of the land. Colonizers and capitalism don't view things as guardianship, they view it as ownership. As an indigenous person, we view it as guardianship. It is us. The land is us. That's all I really have to say this morning. I'm heading back to the streets. Thank you so much, Cheryl. Thank you so much for all of you that have been speaking. I wish I could stay longer, but literally I can hear sirens in the streets. Thank you so much. Aloha.
Thank you, Paul. I just was wondering if you could just say a few things about your childhood that you told me.
I can.
Because
I was born on the island of Maui. My ancestral home is Hana. I spent a great deal of my childhood in Lahaina. When Lahaina burns, it burns the memory and our connections to those memories along with it, not just for myself, but for many people. Great artists have lost their work in that fire. Sam Ka'ai, who sailed on the Hokulea, lost his life's work. He's 80 years old. For the people who have been referring to being old at 60, I'm 76 and I'm still out there. My childhood was spent playing in the banyan tree that was almost destroyed. Again, planted by colonizers, but we worked together. I played in that banyan tree. I played with playmates. We learned so many life lessons amongst those branches and leaves. And it's struggling now to stay alive. And that's pretty much the way I feel the streets are. The people there are struggling to stay alive. We need to draw together. We need to collaborate and work cooperatively to get away from this. We truly do. And there is a solution. The solution is within us. And thank you for asking, Cheryl. The destruction of Lahaina meant a lot to me. And quite frankly, I'm still recovering from that. We all are. They still haven't come up with a final death toll on it. But I do know that other people that I know have lost everything that they owned in the fire. And yet we still go on. That's the way we are. I enjoyed the presentation of Indigenous people most recently today, where they kept saying, we're still here, we're here, we're here. We understand that, I understand that, and we are here. We're not going to be erased. We are still here. So thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you, Paul, so much. That was beautiful. And yes, we're all still here. And you are such a like a mental health whisperer on the street. You help people every day, 24/7, and you're available. So thank you for all that work. It really means a lot to me, and always a pleasure to be in your company as well.
Thank you. I'm carrying what I learned today into the streets right now. Thank you. Aloha.
Thank you. Aloha. Okay, so thank you. So I think I'm not sure if Tiny is here yet. Tiny is always so busy and she's on her way in, so I've been told. I texted her. So if you want, we could take a 2-minute break since we didn't get one before, and she'll be here in a few minutes, and we'll be right back. So don't leave, anyone. Just stay.
If I could, maybe this would be a chance I could play that trailer that we were talking about. Also, I want to.
Tiny's here.
Oh, Tiny's
Go
here.
ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Tiny. Go ahead. Yeah, that's a good idea, Jack.
Well,
Do
actually,
that.
if Tiny's here, we can go ahead and start. We can do,
Tiny.
We can do the trailer at the end. I've got a couple. There's another announcement. I'm going to put it in the chat. I was ready to do that anyway. There's a big rally in Sacramento on Sunday, and somebody put it in the chat earlier, and I just wanted to make sure everybody knows about that. But yeah, Tiny, why don't we have Tiny go ahead, and then if we have time at the end, we'll do the trailer.
Okay. I was going to say, if you wanted to take the break, if people are tired, they could take a 2-minute break and come back. It's up to everybody.
Well, what do you want to do, Cheryl?
Either way, I don't care. It's all good. We can continue.
Okay.
That way, maybe we could end a couple minutes early or something.
Okay. It's all good for me.
So go ahead, Tiny, if you're ready.
Yeah, sure. Hold on one sec. Let me just pull.
You have to make her a speaker view, and thanks, Jack.
Oh, okay. There we go.
Do you see that houseless mom and daughter sleeping in a tent? I said, do you see us houseless mamas and daughters sleeping in a tent? That's because we don't got money for the rent. Evicted, swept, and kicked. Because settler towns like these don't give a shit. Yeah, I'm a poverty scholar. That houseless mama, that houseless daughter, all those people you don't want to see, never want to be, look away from me. What you gonna do, Berkeley, Oakland, Frisco, and all of occupied Turtle Island? Arrest me? Guess what? We're in your cities. I'm a poverty scholar. I brought my jailhouse attire. Not because orange is the new black. Any crack Hollywood will always sell you that. It's because me and my po mama did jail time for the poverty crime of being unhoused in this occupied indigenous holler. I'm a poverty scholar, the melanin challenged daughter of an Afro Boricua mama, for without whom there would be no me. Ibaye Mama D. A mama soltera and a welfare queen. I want to thank you, relatives. I know that this space has been opened up in a good way with Sister Karina offering prayer, which is something I often do, but I don't need to. I feel safe and loved and acknowledged and listened to, and all of the things that poor and houseless people's voices are never given. We have our own solutions, relatives, and I know that we all know that. As houseless, as indigenous, as poor folks, we have our own solutions. It's that people are not listening. There's too much money to be made on politics. There's too much money to be made on non-profiteering and philanthropimping, and yes, I did say that. But most importantly, unfortunately, there's too much money to be made on Mama Earth. And so today's presentation was called Unselling Mama Earth. And I want to spend a little bit of time talking specifically about what that really means.
Oh, wait a minute.
We just lost your audio, I think.
Where did you lose
Oh
me?
yeah, you're good. You're good.
Sometimes that means that people have to be uncomfortable with that reality. We've all been bought and sold and pimped and played and told and growed on this idea that we have to buy Mama Earth to be safe. That's the system we live in, controlled by bloodstained dollars, by settler colonial laws, and by a system set up from the get-up to incarcerate every poor person it gets. But let's go back to unselling Mama Earth. As I stand humbly with the Indigenous relatives, the First Nations relatives, the Moana relatives on this beautiful digital street today, and thank you, Cheryl, for always bringing this medicine and this love, and all the relatives here today for all the work you do. But as I stand humbly in this space, I have to acknowledge first that our First Nations and Moana relatives and all First Peoples all across Mama Earth have always not seen Mama Earth as a commodity. And so now that some people are talking about decommodifying Mama Earth, I want to get into the weeds about that. I want to say that houselessness would not be a thing but for the lie of rent. Returning back to my opening poem prayer, do you see us houseless mama daughters sleeping in a tent? I want to get clear on that's because we don't got money for the rent. Now, there are many reasons, of course, that us houseless folks, because we're a multiverse, we're not the homeless people, as I'm sure Paul might have elucidated for you. We're a multiverse, just like folks who have a roof. That does not define us, and it absolutely has nothing to do with who we are. But what we share in common is a scarcity model and the buying and selling of Mama Earth. The scarcity model rooted in the same settler colonial lies that we all live by. Even some of our conscious folks on this call, well, they need to be safe. And maybe they had a little bit of coin here and there. So they did buy a place, right? But then how does that slowly seep into enabling the hoarding, the developing, and the stealing of Mama Earth as a money-making, profit margin creating commodity? So I want to go back again. If we are talking about decolonization, we must talk about degentrification. Poor Magazine is a poor people-led, Indigenous people-led movement started by me and my mom. We were sleeping on the street, motels, shelter beds, doorways, park benches, wherever we could stay away from the eyes of the angry housed people who didn't want to see us and realized that maybe, just maybe, capitalism doesn't work and never has. I was arrested and put in Santa Rita County Jail for 3 months for the crime of being houseless, because it is a citable offense in occupied Turtle Island. There is a specific criminalization that is very specific to this part of Mama Earth that we have created based on the settler colonial lies that stole this Mama Earth. So the crucial part is for us to connect those dots, for us to understand that we can't talk about movement and just transitions and all of these things without clearly defining that Mama Earth must be unsold. That as we stand together with our First Nations relatives who humbly allowed us to even be here in occupied Chin, shout out to Karina and Sigorte Land Trust and all the relatives in all parts of occupied Turtle Island. We have Sister Lynn Eaglefeather here, Lakota relative, lost her son in Arapaho and Cheyenne lands because of police terror and the lie of poverty and homelessness. But as we stand together, shoulder to shoulder with our First Nations relatives, how does that intersect with our houseless bodies? Those of us who might come from settlers, those of us who might come from lands that are not these. I'm half colonizer. I live with that reality. I walk through the world appearing white. My mama made me leverage that skin privilege every day as a poor mixed race woman of color herself. As a woman who had been hated and tortured in foster homes, or she used to call them torture homes, and the orphanage system, and all of these other systems set up from the get up to make every poor person they get. But anyway, having said that, as we stand together in land back movements and Black land return movements, how do we place houseless people from all parts of Mama Earth? We place it in the context of unselling her, decommodifying so that we can live actually without what I call the violence of exposure. For those of you who happen to have a roof who are with us today, please understand that you have what I call the privilege of privacy. That when I say we're a multiverse, some of us use substances, some of us are addicted to the man's poison, some of us just got evicted and are sleeping in our car, some of us deal with disabilities, some of us deal with neurodivergence. But how does that make that everybody's business? How does a person who has a roof get to have these same experiences and not be judged? Because they live with the privilege of privacy. And so as we resist this notion of buying and selling, pimping and playing, developing and extracting, as we look at the violence against Mama Earth's poor shoulders under the construct of climate change, we have to understand that it also includes holding our folks who are first and worst impacted, holding our relatives who have died in these floods because they didn't have a home, who have died in these fires because they can't breathe, because there is no sheltering in place when you don't have a shelter. As we hold everyone together who is being moved off of their island nations of origin, we have to understand that we need to stop the IGOT's minds scarcity model that we've all been lied to about. I invite all of you to come to People School, Decolonization, Degentrification Seminar. As many of you might know, we are building Homefulness, a homeless people's solution to homelessness. How about that? A homeless people's solution to homelessness. I want to shout out to our relatives at Wood Street Commons who had a solution and was violently evicted. Why? Because there was money to be made on that Wood Street. There was profit to be made on that small part of Mama Earth. And us houseless folks were just getting in the way. I want to shout out to my brothers and sisters in the streets of occupied Chin, Berkeley. And so glad to consider the homeless, and Barbara Brusk and Spirit and Paul Kealoha Blake is here, and all the warriors who sit in the streets and fight and advocate and hold us But I want to throw out the idea that there is possibilities for us collectively to do what I call radically share, to walk in radical interdependence. That if you happen to have enough money beyond what you need to take care of your own families and keep yourselves safe, that you should need desperately and emergently need to radically share that with people who have none. This is the work of Poor Magazine. This is the work of Homefulness. We're poor people. We never would have been able to buy this small part of Mama Earth, but for the fact that alumni from People School learned about radical interdependence, learned about degentrifying their own lives, and learned about radical redistribution so that us poor people could build our own solution. Right now, we're trying to raise money, blood-stained dollars, so we can turn them into love-stained dollars, to build homefulness in occupied Squaxin, Nishnawbe territory, Pacific Northwest, to build homefulness in LA with our relatives from Aetna Solidarity, to build homefulness in West Oakland, so our relatives in Wood Street Commons can rebuild what was taken from them. I encourage you all who are not necessarily with extra privilege to rethink these ideas of just transition and even climate terrorism if they don't include holding and lifting up our houseless bodies who are impacted first and worst on these stolen and occupied streets. And finally, as I know my time is running out, I want to thank you all for your beautiful hearts, for having this conversation. And I want to apologize to Mama Earth, who continues to take so much abuse from these corporate extractors and from these developing buyers, and to recognize that there's those of us who are walking a different way, who are walking into liberation today. O Mateo, thank you, everybody.
Wow, thank you, Tiny. You do still have time if you have anything else you want to share right now.
Yeah, sure. I can tell you a little bit more. I just wanted to bring up the fact that there are right now over 53% of the students, that's children under 18, who enrolled in the San Francisco Unified School District, 38% in the Oakland Unified School District, 32% in the Berkeley Unified School District, who are dealing with housing insecurity or homelessness. I want people to sit with that reality. As we talk again about holding Mama Earth, about the humility needed to understand that our children and elders are being abused, actually abused, by the continued buying and selling of Mama Earth. And what do I mean by that? Well, one of the things that Poor Magazine has worked on for years, along with our fellow relatives in this fight, and shout out to Moms for Housing and Idris Stelly Foundation and so many of our fellow warriors in this work. But we're working and we have lifted up the idea that eviction is elder and child abuse, that we are not in a space and a place to keep abusing people, and that is actually what it is. We want to lift up the fact that cultural work and art is not only one of the ways that we as houseless, traumatized, disabled, Black and Brown and Indigenous people heal, it's also one of the ways that we teach. Encourage people to look at Poor Press, which is the publications of poor and Indigenous peoples. As people may know, Poor Magazine has many arms. We're a really big village of what we call poverty scholars. And we lift up the notion of poverty scholarship, which is poor people-led theory, art, words, and tears across Mama Earth. But it's the idea that knowledge doesn't just come from an institution. Knowledge comes from our lives, from our experiences. And many of us on the street have been told the lie of illiteracy. We have been told the carceral state is our solution, and our bodies and lives and stories have been criminalized and co-opted and stolen from us for centuries. So I want to just lift up to honor and respect and support the Poverty Scholars creating work. Shout out to Auntie Francis and Angel Heart and Moteado Silencio and so many of our beautiful authors. You can check it out at poorpress.net, but also the textbook, Poverty Scholarship. If there's anybody from UC Berkeley or any of the institutions here, think about integrating that into your curriculum. We are teaching a different way to live that is rooted in humility and rooted in prayer, rooted in our art, and rooted in our life. As a different kind of canon. Also invite folks to invite us in to teach. Right now, we're putting together a collaboration, a sort of collaboration with air quotes, in with some of the law schools. Yes, I did say law school. I mean law school, because Poverty Scholarship informed law is law that doesn't criminalize human beings and actually listens to our own solutions. Poverty Scholarship informed law means that you're not criminalizing a family and separating a child from a mama just because they don't have enough money to pay the rent. Poverty Scholarship informed law is a resistance to what I call anti-social work. So as we think of these unsellings of Mama Earth, as we think of holding Mama Earth close to our heart and protecting her and loving her, again, I just ask that you hold and love and care for us folks who are houseless on the street and impacted first and worst. That there is a violence that happens to our bodies, our lives, our souls, and our minds that's almost unspeakable. I want to encourage people to check out the book that I wrote about me and Mama's life. It's a children's book. It's called When Mama and Me Lived Outside. And it specifically is geared toward educators, teachers, mamas and papas, uncles and aunties, and children. Because right now, relatives, we need to see ourselves. Because actually there's more of us than there are of people who are housed. I want to lastly say that I oftentimes say, no matter how many times you study me, incarcerate me, or evict me, it doesn't give me a home. And that there are many ways and many different ways to resist the violence of exposure. But one of them is to recognize that our relatives right now on the street sometimes need to just be left alone. And in the savior mentality of anti-social work, we've all been taught that everybody needs to be saved. But we know that's really rooted in a whole lot of lies. Poverty Scholarship informed love work overstands that some of us, the trauma is too great. The healing is intangible. And so in this case, the healing is sometimes just being left alone. And I wanted to leave you with a prayer. It's a poem also. But in my last couple of minutes, some of you might know this poem. It's the Welfare Queen Anthem. And I do say again, we do a lot of cultural work and cultural art. We're currently trying to raise money to make a movie of the play we did last year, a feature-length film. So look in theaters next year for a feature-length film called Crushing Wheelchairs. It's about the violence of sweeping us humans like we're trash. But this poem is was created along with my sisters in the Welfare Queen Project, which is a poetry, performance, and action project. Small W, capital Q. We came out right at the time in 2006 that the welfare deform work was even worse for our houseless and poor mama bodies. And so if you want to close your eyes and just listen, this poem is in honor of homeless mothers and poor mothers, low-wage mothers and no-wage mothers, welfare mothers and 3-job working mothers, migrante mothers and incarcerated mothers. In other words, this poem is in honor of DH Estwith, CP Estwith, and most of all, system messed with mothers. This poem is in honor of all those poor women and men. And yes, I said men, because don't sing me that song about gender again. Who fight and struggle and steal and beg in every crevice and corner to keep our kids in a bed. Who dress and feed with tired hands, but who answer cries over and over again. Who can barely make it, but always do, and still raise all the world's people like me and you and you. Can I get a witness? Who can barely make it, but sometimes do, and still raise all the world's people like me and you and you. Check out People School, family, www.poormagazine.org/peopleschool. I love you all. Oh, Mateo.
Oh, Mateo, thank you so much, Tiny, for being here. I love you. You're amazing. You do so much. I don't know how you have the bandwidth, but you do, and it's just amazing.
Thank you.
Always wonderful to be in your presence.
Love
Thank
you.
you.
All right.
Love you too. All right. Wow, we made it through. What a wonderful morning. I'm like getting chills. It was been really, really amazing. So I also want to, I put in the chat, the next virtual summit series that we're having, which is climate ableism and accessibility is on November 17th. Climate and gender is in January. January, let's see, what is it? I'm sorry, my computer's being slow as usual. January 19th. And then climate and the imprisoned industrial complex is March 15th, 2024. So stay tuned for that. And I also want to thank again all the speakers today. Thank you, Leneda, Dr. Leneda Warjack. Thank you, Carrie. Thank you, Patricia. Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Paul. And thank you, Tiny. I hope I didn't miss anybody. I can't find my notes right now. Oh yeah, I think that was everybody. And then and also want to thank Karina Gould for starting us off this morning. And also, again, I want to thank CERC, the Student Environmental Resource Center, Jed and Sharon, our fellows who did a great job today, Natalie, Livy, and Janelle, who wasn't able to speak but was here, and Karis, who was also here and wasn't able to join in. But I want to give a special thanks to my son Armando for getting me into the whole climate change emergency world. If it wasn't for him, Berkeley would not have declared a climate emergency. And I also want to thank my daughter, Spencetta, and my husband and my sister for all they do to enrich my lives. And I want to thank all who have donated today and will donate in the future. And so I have an ask so that we can acknowledge the unceded land that we all occupy in our and by adding the territory to your city sign. So go to your city council persons, mayors, people that can do that sort of thing, and get your territory like we did in Berkeley. Welcome to the city of Berkeley, Ohlone territory. Albany followed our lead, and hopefully all of you will go back and get that done as well. And remember, this recording is going to be available on our website, and we'll send out the PowerPoints as well. And I also know that we're still in a climate COVID crisis. So don't forget to wear your mask and keep your distance, continue to wash your hands, and be mindful of that. And today we learned that we have to listen, we have to acknowledge our ancestors, find joy in things that we do, and mostly we have to love. We have to love ourselves first. We have to be loved and be loved, and show love. So thank you for being here, everyone. It's been an awesome morning. I'm so proud of that CEMTF is able to bring these things, these events to you, and to all the speakers that have presented at all of our series. And join us again in November for climate ableism and accessibility, and join our general meeting, which is going to be on the 20th of this month, next Wednesday. I'll be sending out the link, but it's the same link if you have it. And stay tuned and stay healthy and be safe. Thank you all. Thank you, fellows. Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Karina. Thank you, everyone. Bye. Have a great rest of your day and weekend. Stay healthy, be safe. Bye.